Most people spend their entire lives dealing with money without ever being taught how it actually works. School taught you algebra. Nobody taught you what a mutual fund is. Nobody taught you how taxes work. Nobody taught you the difference between an asset and a liability. You were just expected to figure it out. And most people don't. So let's fix that right now, in 5 minutes. Everything in personal finance starts here. Income is the money coming in, expenses are the money going out, and the gap between those two numbers is the most important number in your financial life. If your income is higher than your expenses, you have a surplus. That surplus is what you save, invest, or use to build wealth. If your expenses are higher than your income, you have a deficit. And a deficit, sustained over time, is how people end up in serious financial trouble. Most people intuitively understand this, and yet most people never actually sit down and calculate what their real gap looks like. They have a rough feeling about it, a vague sense that they're more or less okay, but feelings aren't a financial plan. The first step in every financial journey is the same. Know your number. What comes in, what goes out, and what's left. Everything else builds on top of that. And if you've never done this before, doing it for the first time is usually equal parts eye-opening and deeply uncomfortable. Do it anyway. Not all debt is created equal, and understanding the difference is genuinely life-changing. Bad debt is money you borrow to buy things that lose value. Credit card balances, car loans on depreciating vehicles, buy now, pay later schemes on things you didn't need. Bad debt costs you money and interest and leaves you with nothing appreciating on the other side. Good debt, in theory, is money you borrow to acquire something that generates a return greater than the cost of borrowing. A mortgage on a property that appreciates, a student loan that leads to meaningfully higher income, a business loan that funds something profitable. The key word there is in theory, because good debt can become bad debt very quickly if the math doesn't work out the way you planned. A mortgage you can't afford isn't good debt. A degree that doesn't increase your earning power isn't good debt. The rule is simple. Borrow for assets, not for lifestyle, and always know the interest rate you're paying, because interest is the price of borrowing someone else's money, and it is almost always more expensive than people realize until they're already in it. Before you invest a single dollar, you need a buffer. Financial advisors call it an emergency fund. It's 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in a savings account doing nothing exciting. And the reason it matters is not because savings accounts are a good investment. They're not. It's because without a buffer, every financial emergency becomes a debt event. Your car breaks down, you go to the credit card. Your roof leaks, you go to the credit card. You lose your job, you go to the credit card. The emergency fund exists so that life's unpredictability doesn't derail your financial progress every 6 months. It's boring, it feels unproductive, it just sits there looking useless until the one moment it isn't. And in that moment, it is the most important money you have. It's the foundation that everything else stands on. This is where money stops being something you earn and starts being something that works for you. The core concept is compound growth. When your money earns a return and that return earns its own return over time, the math starts doing things that feel almost unreasonable. $1,000 invested at 7% annually for 30 years becomes nearly $8,000 without you touching it, without you doing anything. That's compounding. And the single most important variable in that equation is time. The earlier you start, the more aggressively the math works in your favor. The simplest and most proven way for most people to invest is through index funds. An index fund buys a small piece of every company in a market index like the S&P 500. You get instant diversification, low fees, and historically returns that beat the majority of professional fund managers over long periods. You don't need to pick stocks. You don't need to time the market. You need to start early, invest consistently, and leave it alone. That's the whole strategy, and it works. Wealth isn't a salary. It's not a job title. It's not a number that impresses people at dinner parties. Wealth is assets minus liabilities, what you own minus what you owe. And it's built through one repeatable process. Earn more than you spend, save the difference, invest it in things that grow over time, and do that consistently for years. That's it. That's the whole game. Not complicated, not a secret kept by rich people in private clubs, just consistent behavior repeated over a long enough period of time. The reason most people don't build wealth isn't intelligence, it's patience. Because wealth builds slowly and then all at once, and most people give up somewhere in the slowly part. Don't be most people.